We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live. Boxing Ego unpack. Yeah. We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live. Oh man, it's getting bad, y'all. Canelo Alvarez defeats Gennady Golovkin in a very lackluster fight. Now, at the press conference, he seems triggered or aggravated, agitated, angry Canelo, responding to questions about David Benavidez, and he attempts to justify why he says he doesn't want to fight Mexican fighters. Roll the clip.
Guys, always I say this, you short that video and put whatever you want. When I say I don't want to fight Mexican, it's because I represent Mexico. And that's why. But I don't care. I fight anybody. And I fight all my entire life anybody. What do you think? I don't want to fight with Juan Mexico or Benavidez. But look, I hear his dad talking a lot of shit. But look, he's accomplished nothing. One single champion, Anthony Dirrell. Please, don't disrespect myself. Please, guys.
When I tell you that I thought Canelo was a diva, I mean, if you hear what he just said and you don't agree with me, I don't know what. Something you're probably biased, maybe racist. I don't know. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. So, the clip you just heard was post-fight Gennady Golovkin, part 3. The fight was a miserable fight. If I was DAZN, I would probably cry. They spent or reported $65 million for that main event. The main event only. And it did not deliver. It was by far the worst of the whole trilogy. It was a fight that, it just was a good fight. Golovkin looked every bit of his age, if not older. Golovkin looked like he was definitely at an advanced age. Golovkin was only throwing jabs. He looked like he had all of a sudden overnight got even older and appeared to be gun shy, hesitant, had no faith in his cardio, had no faith in his power. And there were points of the fight where a pro Canelo crowd full of Mexican American, some black, white, Asian, whatever. The pro Canelo crowd, they were booing. That's how disappointed they were. So the clip you heard was post-fight, and I think people expected more from the Golovkin fight in general, so Canelo might have already been a little bit upset because Canelo Alvarez promised that he was going to knock out Golovkin and end the trilogy impactfully. He was going to take this trilogy and boom, silence the critics, because the first two fights, different people felt different things. And I don't think he did a great job of doing that. And it's really because of the level of performance from Golovkin showed that there was a lot of deterioration over the years since they first fought, right? Now, since people are so annoyed or unfulfilled and underwhelmed with the Golovkin fight, naturally the Benavidez questions roll in. And I keep telling you, the walls are closing in it's like an Indiana Jones movie when they had the walls with the spikes and Indiana Jones has to think quick. That's Canelo and the Jones. He's in the same position where the walls are closing in for him. People are demanding more and more. If I was DAZN, I don't even understand, where does he go? What are you going to... This fight, to me, I don't think it generated enough interest and or was a financial success just based on the lack of buzz, the outcome. You would think somebody called the face of boxing, it would be extremely viral when they fight. And I didn't really see that, especially after the fight, because people were saying they fell asleep and bought the pay-per-view and fell asleep, things like that. And they were highly disappointed. So the David Benavidez questions, that's natural that has come. Canelo looks worse in trying to explain away why he said what he said in terms of not being willing to fight another Mexican fighter. But he doesn't do a good job, and the diva behavior of Canelo is really on display. Like you can see body language, and I took some psychology in college, and Canelo, he has his arms crossed and holding the mic. He just looks like real cramped up and just annoyed, almost as if it's a level of disrespect that you would even bother asking him about David Benavidez. And I'm going to continue to break it down in many ways. I'll go over some of the points in this video, but I want you to hear it first, what he had to say. David Benavidez, he's like, who has he beat? Who has he fought? He fought one guy, Anthony Durrell. Like, what is, but that excuse is getting tired, because since we're on the subject of Anthony Durrell beat a guy named Avni Yildirim that Canelo used as a sparring partner. So he knew him from sparring in his gym in San Diego. Anthony Durrell beat him, and that dude, Avni Yildirim, took 2 years out of the sport for whatever reason. So he was on a 2-year layoff, a loss to Durrell, and he finally came back, and somehow the WBC said this was a mandatory fight for Canelo, who had defeated Caleb Smith for the WBC belt that they just threw in to make it a unification. So how is it that Canelo, these excuses don't work anymore? How is it that Canelo had no qualms, beefs, or problems fighting Avni Yildirim for the WBC spot, you know, because the WBC ordered and it was a mandatory, but then the number one highest ranked former 2-time champion that was a WBC champion twice, lost the belt once for cocaine and once for missing the weight right during the year of the pandemic, first fight in the pandemic. These are all facts. And no one's beating him in the ring, though. He's undefeated. You can say what you want about him losing the belts for different reasons. He's been on point, been making weight, and he's been sizzling, highlight reel performances, fought an eliminator with David Lemieux, and Canelo seems annoyed and aggravated, very angry that you would even bother asking him the question. He says, please don't disrespect me. What are you talking about? You're in a competitive sport such as boxing. It's not a disrespect. People want to see you fight great fights. People are paying their hard-earned money to see you or support the pay-per-view or, you know, come to the events. They want to see what they want to see. And what they don't want to see is a fight that all across the board, I haven't seen anyone suggest that it was a great fight. And that was the Golovkin fight. You waited till he was 40. He couldn't pull the trigger, couldn't get off the blocks, even gave you some problems in round 9, 10, 11, right around there. And it just wasn't a good fight. Very little action. We know David Benavidez, what he brings, whether he could beat Canelo. You know, I'll leave that to you guys in the comment section. But one thing I know is he's younger than Canelo. That's a fact. He's a former 2-time champion. That's a fact. He's bigger than Canelo. That's a fact. And he has a style, and nobody has made him suffer or pay or beat him. So if Canelo were able to do that, then that would be a great cap in the hat. But he'd rather fight a bunch of European fighters and avoid certain fighters. And it's just the walls are closing in for Mr. Alvarez. I think people are growing tired of seeing it. Like, this is the Benavidez, you see him right there. The Benavidez fight, Stephen A. Smith is clamoring for it. I've heard a bunch of fans talking about it. And it's really the perfect fight. You got two guys who speak Spanish and speak English, bilingual, and you mean to tell me this is not a sellable fight? And he'd rather try to denigrate David Benavidez? But he's already done interviews saying, hey, David Benavidez is a great fighter. So now you're trying to undermine David Benavidez because you don't want to fight him by saying who's he beat. But again, these excuses wear thin because he's trying to beat you. He's trying to fight you. If David Benavidez tried to fight Caleb Plant, Jamal Charlo, he already beat Anthony Durrell, who Caleb Plant is fighting. He's called out Canelo. I don't know what's up with the David Morrell Jr. fight, but he hasn't been able to get these fights yet. So we can't just keep saying, oh, who's he beat? Who's he beat? He hasn't fought nobody, because clearly that's not by his choice. He's calling out everybody and he's kicking butt and taking names with the people he is fighting. Even guys are willing to fail PED tests like Uzcategui. Uzcategui didn't fail a drug test before fighting Caleb Plant, but he most certainly did before fighting Benavidez because he knew what to expect, and I guess he wanted to be as ready as possible, even if he had to go outside of the rules of boxing to do such. So to me, this clip makes Canelo look bad. The fight was abysmal with Golovkin, and we know the better fights, Benavidez, Charlo, Andre, Beterbiev, Bivol Part 2, all would have been greater and better fights, but Canelo's choosing what he wants, and, you know, we'll see how long that can last. To me, I think the jig is up. I don't think people are going to tolerate that much longer, and especially you shouldn't, because if you're saying he's number one pound for pound, that comes with responsibility. You got a number one guy in Benavidez saying, let me at him, I want to be tested, How can anyone really skillfully, I don't see how you can at this point look at all of boxing and say, hey, Canelo's the most skilled guy when you have Crawford's, Errol Spence's, Usyk's, and, you know, other fighters, NOA and all these other dudes who look very, very hard to beat. I can't see how you can look at all of that in boxing and say, hey, you know, with Shakur Stevenson, all these guys in the sport, I think Canelo is the number one pound for pound most skilled fighter. And Canelo can't just sit at the top of the hill and king of the hill and not give these guys an opportunity. Say, I don't want to fight Mexicans or half Mexican, half Ecuadorian, Benavidez, whatever. You're not giving them a shot, and then you're criticizing them for lack of resume. You know, how can Demetrius Andrade, another guy who called out Canelo for years, they could have fought at 54, 60, 68, and to no avail. So Canelo man fans seem very content allowing Canelo to play this posturing game, pick a bunch of fighters that he wants to fight when he wants to fight them, and exclude and not have that inclusion for Andrades and Benavidez and David Morrell and Charlos, and say, hey, who they beat. So the walls are closing in. Drop your thoughts in the comment section. The best in the business. Bang! Introducing Super Thanks. Right here on the official Boxing Ego YouTube. Super Thanks allows you, the viewers, to show a little bit of extra gratitude, which enables me as a full-time content creator to push out the content you need in the world of boxing. Underneath all the videos, you will see a heart with the $sign in it. You can enter any amount that you find suitable as a super thanks. A brand new interactive and colorful way to get your comments highlighted and noticed by not only myself, but other people on the YouTube platform. Super thanks, a unique and cool way to show and applaud us full-time content creators. Hopefully you guys enjoy the content. Super thanks. The future is now. The Hibernation 5s by Kenichi Bear. Hybrid gaming and lifestyle headphones. Out of the box, you can connect to any console or PC. Bluetooth ready with a low latency USB adapter, color RGB, and extreme bass mode. The Hibernation 5s adjust to you. Whether you need a gaming, travel, gym, or lifestyle headphones, the Hibernations got you covered. The new Hibernation 5s, link in the description. Customize the way you hear the world. Welcome to the nation. Are you tired of your YouTube videos not getting any views? Well, consider TubeBuddy. I've used TubeBuddy for years to scale up my YouTube channel. Now we're sitting over 200,000 subscribers. TubeBuddy is a browser extension that offers a ton of built-in productivity and time-saving services to take your channel to the next level. Use my link in the description to get started with TubeBuddy and level up your channel faster. We work.